Mic up, Morgan. Cam up. Let's bring on today's guest, the Thunder from Down Under. Everybody, put your hands together for motherfucking graphic novelist Quaid! There he is!
G'day, mate. That's how we do it.
That was perfect. Morgan, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, man.
That was
Thanks
perfect.
Thanks for that illustrious and strange introduction. That's great. Awesome.
I apologize. I'm dragging a little bit of ass. Nothing against you. My brain is.
I thought you were going to go the Stranger Things thing, and you know, Australia being the, what is it, the
upside
area,
down, or
the.
Oh yeah.
Wherever the creepy things are in the.
The Demogorgon himself.
Yeah.
Hold on, we'll do it again. Hold on, everybody, hold on, guys. All right, let's put our hands together for the Demogorgon from the upside down, Morgan Quaid. There he is. Thank you. Oh shit. Yeah, there he is, the Demogorgon himself. There he is, Vecna.
Yeah.
Vecna is here, everyone. Do you watch? Do you watch Stranger Things? Are you into that show?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I watched the first two. I haven't gone back for the third yet. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm old enough to remember pretty much everything in that show from the 80s.
Yeah, all the references, like Firestarter and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And all you know, the shoulder pads and the big hair and
and
Ove and all that sort of stuff. That was all. Yeah, that was when I was growing up. So
yeah, man. I grew up. I was born in '83, so I remember some of it and into the '90s. But who could forget my little buddy, or whatever the hell that thing was called, that little Chucky doll. And what was
weird.
I don't know. Yeah, there was lots of cool things. Etch-a-Sketch, but I think Etch-a-Sketch is pretty old. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I remember the first Walkman. You know,
the Walkman. Yes, there you go.
That was, and you stick it on the side of you, and you can walk around with it, kids. How good is that? You can walk around with it.
Yeah, absolutely. That thing was awesome. Oh, Morgana's commenting on Cabbage Patch Kids. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Morgana's oh, look at those sunglasses down there. Morgana's commenting on your guitars back there. It is a beautiful background. I like what you did with the place.
Thanks, man.
You got some Fenders, you got some basses. You're obviously a multi-instrumentalist, and listening to your music, I mean, you could definitely tell that you're familiar with more than just a couple instruments. How many instruments do you play? I mean, I know that's kind of a sophomore question, but I am interested if you have ever counted, because I haven't.
But no, I'd be the same as you. Anything with a string, I'll give it a go. Drums, a little bit of keys. Anything I have to blow, I'm out. I don't want to. Anything to do with breath or having to breathe and think and play at the same time. Nah, I don't want to put my lips on anything. So it's just a music rule that I live by. So.
Oh, but is that a banjolele back there? Is that what that is?
It's a banjolele, and it is horrible. It is the worst instrument I have ever picked up. It could just be that one, but you know how ukuleles are very loud and banjos are very loud. It's an open back guitar banjolele, and it is so like every time you pluck, you feel the back of your teeth kind of grate. It's terrible. I can't use it. It's just the sound just cuts through anything. So it's great fun, but I think I used it once and then thought, well, let's not do that again. That was a bit silly, but great idea. Just didn't work for me.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that, man. No, my wife is a ukulele a ukulele player, and she actually just got this rad little guitar. Not guitar. Come on, Mike. Come on. She got this rad little custom made uke in the mail the other day. That's been being worked on for like it's been what was it? It's been about a year and a half that she was on a waiting list.
Wow.
And it's fucking wild, man. It's a very beautiful machine. Maybe I can show you guys. Hold on. I'm like pretty jealous, and that's sort of why I just impulse bought some AirPods that I definitely didn't need, but you know I need them. You know what I mean? It's like I
Yeah.
didn't need them, but
Yeah.
I definitely needed them. Hold on, here it is. But can we do it? Okay, hold on.
We can do it, man. We can do it.
Here we go.
Maybe.
Hold on. And here's our guest. There he is. So here it is. This is
Oh wow.
It's hand painted. I mean, it's handmade. It's fucking phenomenal. Like just such a beautiful fucking instrument. It plays beautifully. The way it was tuned, it was originally was like the bottom or the top four strings of a guitar. So it was the D, G, B, E, and then but my wife, she's used to playing a baritone uke, and she uses a low G, so it was a G, C, A, E, or is it E, A? I can't remember how that goes. Whatever. So
one of those.
Yeah, one of them. And so she had to go and find different gauges that worked for her tuning. And I mean, it is beautiful. It is beautiful. It has a wire. It has a coil tap on it. It has these DiMarzio hot rails on them.
Nice.
It's just like it has a graphite fucking bridge on it. It's just I'm telling you, man, like it's just such a beautifully crafted, and it was made by Jonathan Mann, who is a he makes guitars and ukes and mandolins down south. I think he's in Georgia or Tennessee, one of those where you kiss your cousin places. And it's I mean, just absolute beautiful craftsmanship. It's just I would go get it, but if I touch it too much, oh Jesus, if I touch it too much, my wife will like cry or something. So I gotta she wants me to keep my nasty little dick beaters off of them. It's smexy. It is smexy. I also got the refund for your good, Morgan. I'm glad you got a refund for your interface. But yeah, man, like I really dig what you do. I really dig your sound, like your music. You have like a great range of music as well. You know, you got like lo-fi stuff, you got chill stuff. Like this one that we were listening to right before we started was a fizzle pop. And so, have you ever did anything with sync at all? Have you ever like, you know, for TV placement or commercial placement or anything?
Yeah, I do a fair bit for film and TV through a couple of libraries that I work with. So it's, you know, it's not so occasionally I've done ads and a few things like that, or the library will come to me and say, show wants this, can you put it together? And then I'll do that. But most of the time, like everyone else, I guess, I'll just put together music that I think will work, send it to them, wait for 3 years, and then then $20 will come through in 3 years time, and I'll have a look and go, oh, it's in wife beaters of the South, whatever, some show that I've never heard of. That's usually a lot of reality TV and that sort of stuff. Although I have had music in a couple of films. There's one by Jean-Claude Van Damme in a trailer.
Yes.
I got for one of his. Yeah. But they don't let you talk to the guy. See, this is the thing. You get your music in a trailer for the movie, and I asked, and they won't let you. I just want to talk to JCVD and ask him about the splits and the whole thing.
Yeah.
And apparently, having your music on a trailer isn't enough to get you access to the Hollywood stars. Or Hollywood 80s stars, 90s stars.
He's still a star in my book. My mom loves him. Yeah. Like Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal, like those human beings who else was big? He was more so. Who was the guy in Death Wish? Do you remember that guy? Charles Bronson.
Charles Bronson. Yeah, he's going back probably a bit before my time.
Yeah, he is a little bit before. He's a bit before most people's time. It's just like she's like, he was so handsome. Hold on, listen. I'm sorry, but Charles Bronson.
I don't think that's what he's known for, being handsome.
No, it's not. But
I could be wrong.
my mom was like, he's so handsome, and I'm just like, I don't know about that. But let's just take a look at Mr. Bronson here, and you guys be the judge. You guys be the judge of it. He's so handsome. So here he is. Here's Chuck himself. I
mean, look at that tash.
Yeah,
I mean, nice mustache.
Beautiful, beautiful mustache. I mean, look at this guy. Look at that hunk of meat right there. That's just.
That's when hair was in, man. That was when you could have hair everywhere and it was fine.
Right.
Encouraged, in fact. It's even coming out his ears, I think.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure that suave. I agree. Bon. That is one piece of man meat that I could wrap my hands around. It's but I don't know. You know, like look at this guy. Look at him go. He's
yeah. I mean, he's yeah. I'd say he's handsome.
Yeah, I mean he's handsome. I guess not in a traditional way. Like back in the 70s and 80s, you didn't have to be traditionally handsome. And like by the way, he's 22 right here. He's 22. Yeah, that's
what?
And yeah,
he looks like he's 50.
Yeah, well, that's how it worked. Everybody back in the day like used to smoke cigarettes, drink hard liquor,
that's true.
And everybody just aged like 30 years ahead of their time. Like when baseball players were out there just smoking cigarettes and eating cheeseburgers and shit before the big game. They didn't care. They had things to do.
Yeah.
They were just gonna, and they aged like shit. It was amazing. It was an amazing time to be alive.
Yeah, they make us all look like kids no matter what age we are in this age. We're all soft, we're all kids, we're all wimps, compared to those dudes.
It's true. He needs a better skincare routine. You better calm down, Bon, before you start judging. All right, we still smoke and drink like that, but there's still better skincare for it. Thank you, Corey. Welcome in, my friend. Welcome in. So you've done some TV spots. Oh yeah, I was gonna be ridiculous though. This is what Jean-Claude did for us.
I'm your announcer, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now please put your fists in the air, wave them like you do not care. For your host, Mike EP.
Oi, mate, you better stop, Moving Dutchman. That's you missed it, Moving Dutchman. He already said the good day. Or bidet, whatever they say.
G'day.
There
G'day, mate. That's how we do it. And also, this is the weird thing. It's not put on. Like if I meet a friend I haven't seen in a while, I say, "Oh, g'day, mate."
Yeah,
we do say it. It's a real thing.
Right, yeah. Right. And you know, we don't hold it against you. I've had a few Australian friends on the show here, and it's always a good time. I love Australians. I feel like you guys are my spirit people. Like you guys are rowdy. You guys aren't afraid to like tell someone to fuck off or whatever, however you say it. You know, like I love that. I love that about it. I feel like the country it has a lot of beauty to it, but it also has a lot of dangerous animals and dangerous land. And
yeah, man, a lot of dangerous land. Yep. heaps of dangerous land. Well, okay. So everyone says that, and when they, when American friends of mine say, "Oh, isn't it horrible over there and everything?" I tell them, "Well, no, look, it's fine. We all live here. It's not as dangerous as you think." And I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and I kid you not, a day later, I got a message through Facebook, someone that lives down the road, and a snake coming through their toilet bowl. So I didn't tell him about that because I mean occasionally you get a snake up the wazoo, know, or you get a poisonous or venomous spider in your boot or whatever. But aside from that,
yeah,
and the crocodiles and the drop bears, but aside from all of that, it's smooth. It's great. Just don't go walking anywhere on your own at night or day.
Yeah.
Or anywhere.
Oh, just never leave your house. But even in your house, you could be eaten whole.
They can get into your house. Yeah, it's fine.
But I feel like you guys are up against a lot. But you guys have an attitude like it's very. I feel like it's a countrywide punk rock attitude. Like fuck you, life is short. Let's just fucking party. Let's just have a good time. Don't fucking tread on me, kind of. And and all that good stuff. I don't know. I've always loved Australians. I've never been there, but I enjoy them. I enjoy them on the show. They're always a good time. They're always a hoot. That's why I slept with my hands over my vagina when I was in Australia, because I was scared of scared a redback or something would crawl in it and lay eggs. Oh my God, Bon Bon.
That's only happened like 3 or 4 times. It's just very rare.
But you don't.
Very rare.
But do you want to be the one, out of those 4 times? That's the thing. That's why she covered her vagina. You keep your vagina covered.
I should clarify. I have never heard of that happening. Redbacks are more scared of your vagina than your vagina is of theirs. So they don't do that sort of thing. It's mainly boots. It's mainly like, boots if you leave them out and they, build a web in there and everything and you stick your foot in. But again, I've never heard of that happening. It's very rare. And I will say, in defense of Australia, we have anti-venom for pretty much everything. So if you get, bitten or stung or whatever, you're usually fine.
There it is.
Sharks are a different matter. But, we're working on an anti-bite cream. It hasn't been developed yet, or anti-shark spray as well.
I think that would be a big sell, especially here in Florida. Very rare. 3 or 4 times this week. Very rare.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you, Moving Dutchman, for dropping the links for Morgan. Make sure you guys go and follow Morgan. We barely know anything about him other than he's from Australia and he plays music. But Morgan is much more than that. He is a graphic novel. Now I went on the limb here when I wrote graphic novelist on the flyer. Would you consider yourself a graphic novelist? Is that a correct description of what you do, or one of the myriad things that you do?
It's one of them. Yeah, it's one of them. It's a good one to use. You did really well. It's a good one to use because graphic novels are all in at the moment. So that was because you could say, ba-boom. You could have said, novelist or
comic book drawer.
Writer. Yeah, and when you say I'm a comic book writer, there's a large portion of the population that would just roll their eyes and go, oh, here we go, Batman and Superman and all that junk, and
right.
And then I have to spend half an hour explaining, no, man, that's not what I do. I do stuff that's way cooler than that, man. It's not just like 80s style, superheroes. Graphic novelist sort of puts me in that slightly more cool area.
Great.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so what now? Are you just the writer, or do you tend to take on the art? How far along? How much do you go into it? How much are you in control of that? And please, do you draw as well besides writing?
I do not. I go as deep as I can without drawing because I'm not gifted at drawing at all. Oh. And there's kind of different layers. So there's I can draw portraits and stuff, and then I can draw sequential art that looks amazing, and that's a huge leap between those two. So you've really got to go with an artist that knows what they're doing. So I write the script, have the idea, write the scripts. Most of my scripts come from existing novels that I've written, and then I work with artists all around the world, and they produce the art, and then I kind of manage the process. And then I do what's called the lettering, which is so for example, sorry, I'm just making music. So for example, that one there. So the lettering is all of the letters that you can see. So I do all the speech bubbles and all that sort of stuff, but the artist does the rest of it. And I put it together in the book. I get a cover artist to do it. I usually do the title and all that other sort of stuff. So I do as much as I can because it's expensive. It's very, very expensive to do this stuff.
Absolutely.
But yeah, usually I'll get an artist. And to give you an idea, if you're starting from scratch and you're building a comic or a graphic novel and you want to do it the right way and get the best possible people and all that sort of stuff, you would pay for a penciler, an inker that then inks the pencils, a colorist that would then color the result, potentially a flattener, and then a letterer. You may have an editor in there as well. So that's like, man, I didn't even count my first thumb. Let's go that way. 6. So that's 6 people before you've had anything to do with it other than writing the script.
Wow.
That you could be paying. And if you're doing it with a very well-known artist, you're talking, $1,000 a page or $500 a page or whatever it might be. So it's a huge, huge, huge investment. That's why I work with indie creators and artists and stuff, because they're a lot cheaper, but the quality doesn't drop too much if you get it right. So it's very different to writing, because writing is, you're very solitary. You just have the idea, you do it, you flesh it out, and then you edit and edit and edit, and then you get someone else to edit, and then you get proof edit and a line edit and blah blah blah, all this sort of stuff.
Wow.
And then you put it out, or you try and find a publisher or whatnot. With comics, there's a lot more back and forward. I'll give you an example. So there's a guy I work with in Argentina, yep. And there's a little bit of a language barrier. So he he's pretty good with English, but occasionally things will get a little bit wrong. So he sent an image to me, and I said, "Oh man, the guy shouldn't be wearing, should be wearing glasses. He's not wearing glasses." So he comes back, sends me the image again, and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, the guy's not got glasses. He still hasn't got it. What am I? So I looked at it really carefully again, and I realized, there's a glass of water on the table. So he was thinking glass of water, not glasses you wear. So that was quite funny. I went back and said, "Oh, sorry, dude, I meant like these sort of glasses." There's things like that happen every now and then, but which you don't get with US artists that I work with, because they obviously understand the language a lot better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
If you work with people in like Argentina and stuff, is it save a little money? Is that the reasoning, or is it just okay.
You save a ton of money, and there are some really good artists around the world. I mean, like Poland, Venezuela, Indonesia, all over the place. I've met different art, and for different styles as well. So the manga stuff, like that comic I was showing you before, that's more of a manga style. So I use Indonesian artists, because they have that sort of style. Whereas, one that I'm working on at the moment, I'm using an American artist named Dave, and he's really, really cool. And it's more of an American style comic anyway, so it kind of makes sense, or a standard style comic. But yeah, you work with a bunch of different people. It's really good fun.
Yeah.
But really expensive.
Wow. And so what Morgana said, I don't know if this is a question. Someone that I used to do graphic novel art, not sure what his price was, but he has credits on some. You used to know somebody that does it. Okay. Well, there you go, Morgana. Yeah, just to save it. There you go. Morgana is saying that she knows somebody and has credits here. There you go. Thank you, Morgan.
Sweet.
I appreciate you sharing that with us. So I've had some graphic novelists on before. I've had some cats on who I love. They're awesome people. They're digital lizards of doom, I think is what they call themselves. They're a band, and they are they have a graphic novel, and they write music based around the storylines, and there's all kinds of stuff. It's really, really cool. And they worked really hard, and they got sort of a publisher for their stuff. I'm not sure where they're at now. Very indie stuff, but what all goes in for you as a to get like a publisher? Do you mostly fund this yourself, or do you have backing? Like, how does that work for you?
Yes. So I will usually start myself. So I'll usually have a Kickstarter campaign to launch something and kind of test out the feel and what people think of it and all the rest of it, and recoup some of the money. So to give you an idea, this is the behind the scenes kind of reality check on the whole situation. So my last campaign was just shy of $10,000 for a group of comics, which is great campaign, had a huge amount of fun. To give you an idea, that doesn't cover half the cost of the artwork that it took to produce the books, because you take away the printing costs, the postage costs. There's a percentage that Kickstarter takes. There's, a percentage of people that pledge, but they, for some reason or another, they can't pay for it. So when you whittle it all down, it ends up being, a lot less money that you actually make off that. But it's something, and it gets the word out and publicity. So I'll usually do that first to try and, get a feel for what people are thinking. And then I'll go to a publisher. There's kind of two tiers of publisher. There's the top few that are very, very big, very, very selective, and very hard to get into. And then there are your kind of mid-tier that are easier to get into, still very selective, but they're a little bit more flexible with, what they'll select, and they'll get a little bit more indie with their selections. But whichever, or you sort of just self-publish, whichever way you go, though, usually it's the same with novels as well. The onus is on you as the creator to promote the thing. So there's a bit of a myth that if you're signed up to a publisher, it's going to be like, man, when this book comes out, it's going to be in every shop. It's going to be on the billboards and TVs. It's going to be in Times Square, and it'll be like Harry Potter again, except for my awesome book. And it's just not the way it is. There's very few that get publicized that way. So as a writer and a creator, you have to do the pushing yourself. And a lot of times you have to do the editing as well. They won't edit the books for you. So you've got to make sure it's all spell checked and edited and all of that sort of stuff before you put it out there. So basically 90% of the risk at everything is on the creator or whoever's paying for it. The old days of when a publisher would pay you beforehand and all that sort of stuff, that doesn't happen a lot. It still does happen for some of the big ones, but not generally. The other thing is, the reason why graphic novels are so popular with publishers versus comics is a graphic novel, huge amount of work. So I'm working on one at the moment. It's going to be about 110 pages. So that's 110 pages of artwork at, let's say, $150 a page. Yes. So that's a huge investment of money up front to get that thing ready.
Wow.
It's a big piece of work. But once it's done, I can go to a publisher and say, hey, man, here's the book. It's done. It's finished. It's a complete story, end to end, kind of like a Netflix, limited series. It's done. Whereas if I go to them with one issue and then I say, yeah, man, I'm going to do 20 issues of this thing. It's going to be amazing. Right. It's going to be so cool. 20 issues of 24 pages or whatever. If they look at it and they go, yeah, so if we sign you for this and then 2 years down the track, you lose your artist, you lose your job, you get divorced, I don't know, find a spider climbing up your whatever it is, something happens in life that sort of changes the situation for you, then this whole thing is gone and we're left hanging on to it. So we would prefer it all to be done first, which means, again, more money, more time, all that. So I kind of do a hybrid model. Most of my books are through a publisher, and then anything new I'll do myself and then shop it around and see if anyone's interested and then go from there. But it's not like once you're with a publisher, even a big publisher, then it's sweet, man. The checks are coming in. There's not a huge amount of money in the industry unless you're, I don't know, you can get Keanu Reeves to make an appearance on one of your, books. Right. Maybe something like that would help, I imagine. Again, I've emailed. They don't get back to me. But anyway, we'll see. I'm not giving up on that one.
Come on, JCVD. Keanu. Come on.
JCVD would be great, man.
Yeah.
I would love to do a comic version of JCVD, split kick or whatever. Every circumstance, splits. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's like, honey, will you take out the garbage? Splits. Yeah, I got you. It's like, can you cook some dinner for the kids? Splits.
Yeah.
For if you were, do you have to license like someone's name for that? Is that like something that you'd have to do? Like if you were gonna include someone that's of notoriety, like JCVD, would you have to? Do you have to like get permission for that, or can you just sort of?
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, okay, so there's
yeah. You would get the pantsuit off you if you didn't do all that stuff. So honestly, it's not a new thing, but it's becoming more popular. Uh-huh. And I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard, IMDb where they list credits and all that sort of stuff. I've heard that comic books are now starting to get listed there as actors appearing in comic books and stuff, which is kind of bananas. I don't know if that's going to happen.
That's
Sorry,
weird.
Bananas. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but. Yeah, so it is a weird. So you'd need permission. There'd be contracts. There'd be NDAs. It'd be a whole complicated mess, honestly. But it is becoming more popular, and there's new. There's other well-known figures that are coming through in the pipeline. I can feel it, which is kind of good for us indie creators because it raises the profile of like Kickstarter campaigns and all that sort of stuff. It also, though, is a bit of a closed system because you're going to get a gazillion people that are going to buy a comic with Keanu Reeves in it because they love Keanu Reeves, not because they care about reading or comics or the story or anything like that. They don't care. They just want that.
Yeah.
They're very unlikely to come over and buy, here's a story called Enmity. Look at that. Fantastic. By some dude you've never heard of with artwork and such in it about a girl named Daisy who is the daughter of Lucifer, but doesn't know it.
Oh,
no, they're not going to go that far. They're going to come in and grab what they want and then just disappear. It's like the Brendan, don't get his name wrong. Anderson, no. Biggest fantasy writer around. Brandon, someone help me. Brendan Sanderson. Yes, I think I've got it correct. Anyway, so he goes on to Kickstarter. I don't know how many millions, but many millions of dollars, 6 books, the whole big thing. Wow. But I doubt very many of those people will stick around on Kickstarter and find a little comic or a novel or something from some indie creator and go, yeah, man, that's cool. They might. I hope they do.
Well, yeah, that's what you're banking on, right? Like, isn't that
fingers crossed?
We have a question from the chat here. How do you define your style, and what genre are most of your books?
This is a harder question than what you would think. And I've done a lot of thinking about this recently because I'm terrible at knowing what my books are like. So when you're selling books, you have to, or advertising and everything, you have to kind of say, it's like this, but slightly different. It's like that. And the problem with mine is most of my books are like Inception or The Matrix, so there's movie references, but there's not as many clear novel references because I tend to write more like film than novels. If I'm honest, I still don't know that I'm sure what a novel is or how it works. It still confuses me, but I do them. So I would say urban fantasy horror would probably be so I have a lot of fantasy stuff, some sci-fi stuff in there as well, and horror elements, but they're not really, they kind of blend between those two. And I love things with dream worlds, with worlds colliding with our world, anything like that. One of them, the Shadow's Daughter one I showed you, was a woman a bounty hunter that can bend shadow to her will and use it as a physical force and all that sort of stuff. So anything like that, and anything that gets weird super quick is awesome. I'm very impatient. I don't have time for a long burn, like traditional fantasy where it's like, Isildur walks down the thing for 6 weeks.
Right.
And
they're building characters.
And thinks about his life. Yeah, I will start you on. So for instance, this one here, Whiplash, that starts with a knock at the guy's door, and then he's abducted, and then it just goes on from there. So immediately you're in the action. He's got no idea what's going on. The reader's got no idea what's going on, and that's how I kind of like it. Like, get in straight away, and just don't stick your hooks in and stick your hooks in, and don't let go of the reader until the end. Yeah. And then right at the end, do a little twist or something, so they've got to come back. And that's not so much. I mean, that's a really good strategy for writing, but it's also, I'm such an impatient reader myself that it's like how I stay awake while I'm writing, and
because it gets you charged and gets you going to the next part, because you're just like, oh, okay, well, if that happens, then this can happen too, and I can see that. I agree. I think Tom Petty said, "Don't bore us, get to the chorus." Right? Like, let's just get right to the meat of the situation. And I'm with you there too, man. I'm super ADHD. It takes a lot for my attention to be held. I'm mostly bored with movies and TV these days. Like, I can't even. There's like a very few shows or even movies that I will sit and bear a movie that I don't care for just because my wife demands my time for some reason. And so I'll sit there and bear and grit, but for the most part, I'm just like, this is fucking so bored. I'm just bored. I'm just so bored with everything, which sounds just terrible and nihilistic, but it just seems like I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't care. There's just very few things that keep my attention. So if you're coming in with that's, okay, you got me at least there, like you at least got me going there.
Yeah.
But it really does take a lot to, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I think that we're sort of living in a world that is really hyper focused on getting to the meat of things. I mean, like what like TikTok and Instagram. It's like these short clips. Even though there is an argument there that a lot of people love these are still loving long form. I mean, this is a long form podcast that's still growing, which is interesting to me. But like, it's just interesting. You see these long form podcasts that are massively popular, but then you still have that overconsumption of very short form content, like a TikTok video or a YouTube video, or big butts on Instagram. Whatever the situation is, it's just like I need that stimulation. And I need it right now. But
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like I'm with you with that. With I can't take the slow burn. Sometimes I can. Sometimes I can. If I'm willing to, I can. But I don't know. Is there any slow burn fantasies that you really like?
This is an interesting thing, because when I was younger, I loved them, and I would, maybe
like Lord
because
of
you're
the
younger,
Rings.
Well, I never really got into Lord of the Rings.
Me
I
neither.
did a lot of the Wheel of Time series, Robert Jordan. I did, a lot of the classics, Terry Brooks, all of the Druids of Shannara, blah blah, Stone of Shannara, Toilet of Shannara, the whole, anything to do with Shannara, all of that sort of stuff. And then when I got a bit older, I was getting into China Mieville and some of the weirder ones that are out there, like weird fiction and that sort of stuff. Jack Vance, love Jack Vance, but interestingly, I can't stand his fantasy stuff, which is what he's known for. I love the sci-fi stuff that he did. Yeah, so when I was younger, love that. That's fine. Take as long as you want. And of course, George R.R. Martin. Before the series came out, I was reading his books. But yeah, I love that then. Now I just don't have the patience. I think it's because you've lived a bit longer, you've read a lot, you've seen a lot of these ideas. I can't wait for another young boy to discover that he's a magician and then become I can't wait for that. Now, if you want that story, that's fine. But I want to come into the story when he's about to have his arm torn off by something. That's when I want to come in. So he's already gone through that beginning journey and he's found out who he is, and then he's triumphed. And now he's at the point where that whole triumph has just dissolved and he's in all sorts of terror. Yeah. That's where I want to come in.
Yeah. No, I'm with it, man. I'm with it. That's what's so good about this the latest season of Stranger Things is that it's just blood, gore, violence, the upside down, everything, all straight off the bat the whole time, right? It's the whole time is just my son, who's 8, who he's a consumer of that kind of quick, you gotta get me real quick generation, and he really loved the latest season of Stranger Things, and then he tried going and watching the first season, and he got bored really quickly with it. He's like, it's just all stories and stories. I want to see blood. And I'm just like, well, this is like the build up to everything. And I get, he's also 8, so it's like, whatever. I understand that it's not going to stand out to him, but still, it's just it's just interesting that it took that I'm interested in it still. I mean, like I kind of agreed with him. I was like, I'm kind of over this. Like, I don't even want to rewatch this. I've already seen it. And I like your take on, like, we're getting older, and it's like, hey, I don't have time for this character development. Let's just get to the fucking arm getting ripped off here. I'm over it.
I'm a fan of, and this is interesting with screenwriting as well, because I'm doing a lot more of that these days, which I never used to do. You start with the hand getting ripped off, then you can go back a little bit and establish a little bit of background, and then go back into, but you've got to start with something that is at least like gripping.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, that's what was that's what's so good about. I mean, that I know that's sort of something that's pretty popular to do, but a show that I really liked, and even the Breaking Bad and even Better Call Saul, they do that. Like the Vince Gilligan, they'll catch you with some some really ominous, like there's just a teddy bear eye floating in a pool and there's fire all around. You're just like, what in the fuck happened here? And then
Yeah.
it sort of, it gives you more, and then it goes back and it comes back and forth. And with Better Call Saul, the opening of the last season, the first scene is a big mansion. It has a cardboard. It's obviously Saul's mansion, and people are taking it, repossessing all of his goods. And spoiler, but then there's a cardboard cutout of Saul, like that's it's floating in his pool, and there's like a golden toilet, and like it's very lavish lifestyle that is coming to an end because they're repossessing all this stuff. And that's the first thing in this last season. So it's like, okay, I want to know. I'm here. I'm in. All right, let's go. Let's catch up with this chat a little bit. LGBTQ plus graphic novels seem to be pretty popular now, from what you've seen. Bon. Are you? Is that popular in your neck of the woods? The LGBTQ plus graphic novels.
Yeah, it is. It's very popular, and there was a Kickstarter I was involved with a little while ago with Pins. I'm going to forget her name. Anyway, yeah, it was like little pins, and I think they were little pets with the rainbow colors on them and all that sort of stuff. Pins, badges, is that what they're called? Pins, the little metal things you stick on you. Anyway, there's things like that. There are a lot of comics and graphic novels. It's the way culture has sort of shifted more recently. So those things are getting a lot more visibility than, and the same with novels as well. It's the same sort of thing. If you're applying to a literary agent or whoever or submitting, they'll say that in the text. They'll say, we're particularly looking for marginalized voices and these sorts of things, which is, I'm not a marginalized voice in any, I'm the opposite of that. I'm the whitest dude from a middle-class Australian background. I've got no heritage other than the English oppressor that did all of this damage. And I'm a dude, and I'm heterosexual. I'm like the most cardboardy standard guy around. So
you're part of the problem, Morgan.
I'm the problem. It's that old joke. When is someone going to give the middle-aged white man his go? We've been trotting on for so long. It's really bad. So wherever I can, I support those projects and work with teams that are working on that sort of stuff, because it's very, very important. For sure. And I also try, when I'm writing graphic novels and novels, try to be conscious of who are the characters going to be, what nationality are they going to be from, how can I, it's this weird line you have to run, particularly as a writer in my predicament, is how can I represent those voices but without sort of taking anything away from their culture and all that sort of stuff, which it's a tricky one, and there's, you've got to be careful. But in my mind, there's none of my characters that couldn't be played by any nationality, if that makes sense. Like it's not so, that's the benefit of not being a Disney or being a Star Wars or any of that sort of stuff, where there's iconic characters that people know as a certain thing, so you can't change it because the fans will get upset. When you don't have that many fans, it's sweet, man, I can do whatever. But it's definitely on my mind as I'm writing. How can I represent, a diverse group of people and make sure that I'm trying to be a bit more responsible than that. And I think the days are gone where you can just sort of ignore that and go, I'm just going to write about my middle-class white existence and, all that sort of stuff. And, but that's another reason why I don't tend to write real world stuff. I love fantasy stuff for other reasons, but also I tend not to write real world stuff, and I tend not to plunder too much from other cultures for two reasons. One, there's the whole, appropriation side of things. But the other thing is, it's just a lot of work. It's a lot of research. Yeah. It's a lot of work. Whereas if I'm just plucking it all out of my head and relying on, cultural things that are around and, all this other sort of stuff, it's just a heck of a lot easier for me to build a world for that without actually doing the work, which is a interesting thing to admit as a writer, but,
Well, I mean,
that's the way it is.
I think everybody has their way of doing things, right? Like some writers are like, I gotta go and research this fucking really obscure tribe out of South Africa or whatever, and really get the information so I can, really write write about it in a proper way, even if it is fiction. But it's but did that answer your question, Moving Dutchman? All right, hold on. We're gonna ask it anyways. God damn it. But but yeah, like, that's just how you are. That's just how you write. That's just what is best for you. What works best for you is to just bring it out all your brain, make it some fantasy world. So it's just all something that you can just make up there as you go. And I mean, that's fine, right? It's not anything terrible. What I think is interesting about this LGBTQ thing is that you have all these different like corporations that are sort of like, we're happy to be, they have their rainbow flags or they tote out their BLM flags, yet they support some of these American companies like Nike, which a lot of African Americans here support Nike, but yet they get their cotton from the part of China where they actually have slaves. You know what I mean? So I think that it's come to this point where it's like it's gotten so. I mean, you're just pandering to the culture, and you're not really. They don't really care. They don't really care. Like BMW will put the rainbow flag on their logo, on Twitter and all over their website here, but in the Middle East, not so much. Like Mercedes Benz, same way. Not in the Middle East. Uber, they'll do it. They'll have their Pride Month. It's Pride Month here in the United States. I don't know if it's Pride Month there in Australia, but it's Pride Month here. But it's not Pride Month in Sri Lanka. So Uber is not advertising Pride Month. Coca-Cola loves Pride, but in Ghana, not so popular. So, I think there comes a point where there are corporations or even artists who just sort of are riding on this idea of LGBTQ or BLM or whatever it is, and I find that kind of gross. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't know. To me, I appreciate the representation because that is very important, I would say, right? Like people need to see themselves in places. But then there's something gross when people are just sort of doing that because it's popular. And do they really give a fuck? Do they really care if they're just doing it to sort of make money off of the situation? And to me, that's just some hypocritical garbage, and I can't stand it. There's streamers on this platform on Twitch who will sort of I don't want to say pretend, but they'll definitely go out of their way to do certain signal certain things, but they don't really care. They don't really. It goes on all levels, I'd say. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to name any names or call anybody out, but it's a big business. Yes, exactly. Appealing to the masses. Yeah. It's a big business. It's a big business, and they're seeing that, and culturally, they see where the winds are blowing, and it's just interesting to me. I don't know, like I don't know if that's. I know Australia is pretty big, they have that big liberal sensibility, and I'm not shitting on liberals or anything, folks. I'm just saying, that liberal sensibility. I mean, is that something that sort of that occurs in your country as well, or is that a very American thing?
Yeah, it definitely occurs. I just think it's probably more publicized in American culture than in our culture. But yeah, we have the same struggles. We have the same issues. We tend to be a little bit more not laissez-faire, but a little bit more relaxed about things. So we had a vote for gay marriage a little while ago, and some of us were thinking, oh, this is a bad idea to have everyone vote for this because it's just going to show how bigoted we are, and all that sort of stuff. But it ended up going through, and even talking to a few people that I know, semi-religious or ultra-religious or all that sort of stuff. But their view on it was kind of like, if they want to do that, that's fine. Doesn't affect me. That's fine. So it tends to be a little bit more of that, like, it's fine, whatever the case may be. But there's a very big difference between social media change and social change. And I think the focus is too often on, let's slam someone on social media. Let's virtually crucify someone for a corporation or something for doing something. Where the rubber hits the road for me, though, is what laws are passed, how are corporations kept in check, to make sure that when people are hired, diversity is represented, all that sort of stuff, people have the same opportunity. Because it feels like things are starting to correct a little bit, but it feels like for a while now, on social media and all that sort of stuff, LGBTQI and all of those areas have been more represented and all the rest of it. But have the laws actually changed? Because as far as I can tell, it's still mostly old white dudes running the place, and they still have the same, they still want oil, they still want coal, they still want money, they want to protect their interests there. So until that stuff changes, it's kind of a bit artificial. I mean, it's probably necessary to get where we need to go. The other thing is, I've always said, I mean, not as though this was something I coined, but if a corporation was a person, it would be a sociopath. Yes. Like if you knew someone named Nike and they acted the way Nike or any big corporation acted, you would just be thinking, dude, you said one thing to me and then you just went over there and, they're hypocritical, they're anything for the bottom line, all that sort of stuff. But then they can do good things and they can treat their employees right and do good stuff for charity. And then they can support, regimes in other countries that, oppress their people and all the rest of it. So honestly, this is probably a big difference between America and Australia. I think in Australia, there's a bit of a tall poppy syndrome. We don't like people getting too big ahead. We don't like, so you'll have to tell me if this is right. So there's this thing where as an Australian, if I hear a story about, so-and-so, he's a multi-billionaire, he's done incredibly well, he's incredibly successful. I look at that as an Australian and I just think, yeah, dude's got to be crooked. I hate him already. I don't like him. It's just ingrained in us to distrust people that have money.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think in the States, maybe there's a bit more of a, well done, you've achieved something, you've done, it's a bit more positive around people that have made money and made something. And it's a bit more maybe like, I could do that. I should try. I don't know if that's right or not, but here it's like, no, man, the dude's crooked for sure. Well, so it doesn't matter what
I think it just depends on what circles you're running in. I mean, for the most part, that was what the American dream was sold to us as, right? It's like you too can be like a J.D. Rockefeller and become like this big multi-billionaire, and that's a good thing. In some circles, it is celebrated, In some circles, people are like, yeah, that's the point of this whole American, experiment is like so people can prosper. They have their own individual freedoms to go out, create an idea, enforce that idea. Nothing's standing in their way to get that idea out into the world and prosper to the most, to the highest degree. But then, of course, there's big suspicion of billionaires. I mean, Bill Gates. I don't know if they're suspicious of Bill Gates over there, but over here, Bill Gates. And there's a lot to be suspicious of. Considering this guy was jet setting with this guy named Jeffrey Epstein, who mysteriously killed himself. And who also had like this whole pedophile ring going on, and words come out where his wife, that was part of the reason why his wife left him, was because of the work he was doing with Jeffrey Epstein. He's not a doctor, right? But he's definitely going around pushing vaccines. He's also defending these companies. He's also saying, we can't give these patents over to these poorer countries because they just won't do it right. So we're going to let these people die off and go fuck yourself, like to these third world countries. But here in America, we get it. In Australia, you guys get it. In the European Union, they all get these vaccines. But we're not sharing patents though, folks. So it's just very interesting where he places his energy, and that's very visible to us. And to a large sector of this country, they look at Bill Gates as like, this guy, there's just something fucking weird about this guy, right? Like he has man tits, and like he's talking about the health of our country, and he's just walking around drinking Coca-Cola, fucking, buying up all the farmland, being weird. But then you have people like Elon Musk, who I'm still not sold that he's on anybody's side but his own. I'm still not sold. Like one of our moderators here called him Lex Luthor, which I could see that. But he's like this whole idea of him buying Twitter. and trying to bring free speech, which is a very big thing here in America, free speech, which I'm a big proponent of free speech. I, as a broadcaster, as a musician, as an artist, I think free speech is very important, and to the extreme, in fact. But but I'm not sure if he's doing it for the people. I'm not sure if he's doing it just for his own profit, which probably both, maybe. But I'm not sure what his intentions are. It's very weird. It's very shady. But people love Elon Musk, right? They love Elon Musk, and not everybody. But you know, Tesla, his electric cars, which, by the way, those minerals are problematic minerals where people, you know, like people don't understand that energy to charge these batteries, those battery components have to come from somewhere, and it's just like anywhere else, you know.
It's not free energy. No,
it's not.
Yeah.
And who knows? Is it better to take on battery power or these or stick with the fossil fuels? Which, you know, I mean, we know that fossil fuels are fucking shit up. But what's the comparison? Like, is you know, these problematic minerals fucking shit up? Or I mean, where you have like 12-year-olds in these mines that collapse on them, that with dealing with these hazardous materials in Africa and South America. Is that better? Is that better that we have child slave labor doing these things? And you know, we also have to charge these things. Those charging stations are running off of, you know, burnt coal being burnt, fossil fuels being burnt. So I mean, I don't know. It's being sold to us in a certain way, but is that right? I have no idea, because the ideas of getting truth is a very, you know, gray thing now. It's not black or white. It's all become this, like, so much information from so many different sources. You know, science is being used as sort of a way to push corporation interest. It's also being a way to save people's life. It's also, science is being used to push, you know, these pharmaceutical companies' interest. So money is very suspicious here, but it's very much, you know, it's very much everyone's in pursuit of it and everyone wants it, which I'm sure the whole world is like that. But here especially, it's sort of a mixed bag. I think it's just there's so much, there's just so much bullshit out there, so much information that we can't decipher. You know, is Bill Gates a fucking evil supervillain with man tits that is trying to, you know, take control of the food and push these vaccines on people and just try to make his build his power and diddle little kids at the same time? I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure, you know what I mean? But I'm suspicious. It's suspicious, you know?
I think if you, and the problem is profit.
Yes.
If you removed profit from the equation and people were doing things for a different reason, they could still be suspicious. But it's very different when, and I don't know, I guess this, in my mind, this is what government should be, but it very rarely is. I think it is, we're trying to do something as best we can for the good of everyone and for the good of the planet and all of that sort of stuff. So remove profit. We're not making money off this. We're trying to be responsible with the funds. But I mean, humans, man, we're pretty bad with that sort of stuff. If there's a way we can graft some money off the top, or, you know, we will do it. And it's very hard to have power and money and wealth and all that sort of stuff and not use it, even for little things like, oh, I'm going to get my kid into a slightly better school, or I'm going to do this, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. It's not even that absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's just even a little bit of power and money. You know, it's a tricky thing. And I don't know that there's a quick, easy answer for it, but I'm deeply suspicious of anyone, even Elon Musk, anyone with tons of money doing a thing. Because these guys tend to be weird. Like the ones that really shoot up and have, they're odd people. They're not like the rest of us. I mean, you could say geniuses, you could just say weirdo, whichever, or both. So they don't think the way we do. They're not as relatable to us as what other people are. So it's hard to get in their head and think, why are you doing this? Particularly when pretty much everything they do is making money or shuffling money from one hand to another or whatever. Yeah. It's a
No,
tricky one, man.
no. I mean, you have Jeff Bezos blasting his fucking representation of his cock into the solar system, right? Like he's like, here I go, you know, like he's fucking the
He
world.
must have known. He must have seen the design schematics or whatever and looked at that and thought, like someone has drawn that on a blueprint or something on a computer, and he's looked at it and thought, can you make the tip a bit wider and a bit, and then I think we've got it. I mean, you couldn't see what it was. It's as plain as day.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
right there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think these are just fucking really weird people who are, especially, you know, are in a very isolated position in the world as well. You know, there's not a bunch of, I mean, there is now, especially since this whole pandemic transferred, you know, the largest transfer of wealth ever in, you know, in the history of money. Douchebag, welcome in. Thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that, douchebag. Welcome in. Yeah, Pizza Man, I agree with you. You don't get billions of dollars without doing some dirty shit. And somewhere along the line, somebody is eating shit. You know, whether it's those kids in a mine in South Africa or not in South Africa, in South America, or if it's, you know, it's slaves in China or
delivery drivers.
Delivery drivers pissing in bottles because they have to meet quotas, so they're just leaving pee bombs on the side of the highway. Yeah, somebody is getting fucked somehow, and I think that's the nature of capitalism. You know, there's a lot to be said about capitalism and what it has done for the world. I mean, we're at this point in the world, we have, you know, this is the safest time to be alive. There's less poor people in the world now than there has been ever. You know, capitalism has in part sort of lifted a lot of these struggling nations into middle classdom. You know, like India is one of a great example of how their middle class is coming up, and it's they're doing better. I'm not an economist or anything, but I've read books. I've done some reading in some kind of way. But you know, there's also the other side of that where someone is taking the D for those for these things to happen. And so how is it that we sort of, you know, figure out how everyone can sort of prosper and no one has to take the D? But it just seems like human suffering is going to be at the heart of it if we continue doing it the way we're doing it. And I mean, I don't know how you fix that. Maybe fantasy.
Fantasy. And I was just going to say Star Trek. This is the issue I have with, I have several issues with Star Trek. I love Star Trek, love Star Wars, love all that sort of stuff. But I have an issue. One of the issues is they go to a planet, right? And there's a representative from the planet that comes and they deal with that representative about some crisis or whatever. And then at the end, it's all resolved and everything. Name me a country that has one representative, let alone that would, you know, be, I mean, sure, you know, you'd have the president of the US or our prime minister or whatever. But when at any stage would there be one sole representative for a whole planet? It's like they forget that planets are made up of continents with countries, all with different ideologies potentially, and, you know, warring sort of cultural ideas and everything. But in Star Trek, it's all kind of reduced to no, they all think the same way. It's all this one guy's going to speak for the whole world. I mean, it's a small thing, but, you know, I think it's important in future episodes of Star Trek that they address that issue.
Because soon we'll all speak Dutch. You better calm down, moving Dutchman. Look at this guy over here. He's got his own ideas of the planet. Yeah, and that's what's weird about this whole everyone has to think the same way kind of mentality that we're going down, where it's like, you know, you have to accept everything, you know, whether you're liberal or you're more conservative in your thinking. Like, there's just been this like a hardened mentality where you have to think this way and it only can be this way, and anything and the only resolution is yelling at each other online or beating each other or war or, you know, on and on and on. And that's the thing, is like that both sides, both ways of thinking has to understand is that no one is going to agree completely all the way. That there's always going to be a conservative that don't agree with that liberal idea, or there's going to be a liberal that don't agree with that conservative idea. You know what I mean? It's like, if we can't sort of figure out what we can relate to the other side to, if we can't kind of find the common decency or the common ground, then whoever has the power at the moment is going to push this like very rigid ideology. And I don't know if that's the way to do it. I mean, I like the idea, this liberal idea that no one's feelings ever get hurt. Everyone has a fair shot. Everything's fair and equal for everyone. And that sounds great, but again, not everyone agrees with that. And the way that these Twitter mobs come for people, the way that people lose their jobs for speaking their mind out on Instagram or something, like that's moving towards something that I'm a little uncomfortable with, because it doesn't allow room for discussion. It doesn't allow room for actually talking things through. And, again, we're never going to live in a world where everyone agrees. And if you think that, or if that's how it's going to go, if you're going to have to use force for everyone to agree with you, right? Like, if you really want this ideas to where everyone's going to agree, well, then you're going to have to use violence. And that's a different thing altogether now. Now we're talking about something else. We're not talking about, a happy place where everyone gets along and everyone's, no one ever gets offended. I mean, people are going to get offended, and people are going to die, because you can't force people to agree with your ideas because you think that's the best way forward. But we can have conversations, and we can talk about things, and we can find the commonalities between us as human beings. And hopefully that can kind of bring us together and see that we are humans here. You can have it your way, Burger King. Thank you, douchebag.
There's the answer.
God damn it, douchebag. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Welcome in, douchebag. That was a great contribution to this conversation. I don't know, but I mean, I don't know. Like, that whole idea that Star Trek and there's one person that represents the whole world. It does seem like we're kind of that there are groups of people trying to sort of move that way, like the World Economic Forum, which is just such a weird fucking Charles Schwab or whatever his name is. He's fucking like a supervillain, man. Like, I don't know. Are you familiar with the WEF?
No, I try not to get involved in real world stuff as much as possible, because it hurts my brain.
I feel that, man. I feel that. No, it's literally like a federation of super villains who are out there, and here's the weird thing is, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Trudeau, aka Hungry Jacks. You better calm down, Bon. Like all these world leaders are a part of this. And it's just such a weird idea, and they want this whole sort of one world ideology to sort of prevail. And I don't know if that's like the world's biggest corporations are a part of this thing. And I think that that mistrust of power, I think that's healthy, right? Like in Australia, you mistrust people who are in places of power, especially billionaires. I think that's a healthy mistrust, because again, people who get power want more power. People who get money want more money. Money equals power, and so on and so forth. And when you have the world's largest corporations, world leaders, all sort of conglomerating in this one forum, and they're trying to make rules for the entire world here, setting these standards for corporations, setting these standards for different governments. They're taking the power. What was it? The WHO wanted to make these, they wanted to have universal laws that supersede individual countries' laws when it comes to, like, pandemic outbreaks and vaccines and such. So it's just like, whoa, hold the fuck on. What's happening here now? Like, what's going on?
And there's also
weird.
There's also and one of the things you learn when you work in a bigger corporation or a corporate kind of world, most things that go wrong are not necessarily an evil plan or someone with an evil intention. They're a mix of not having the right information, stupidity, arrogance, all of that sort of stuff. So people they have the best will in the world, and they're probably all thinking, let's all get together and let's fix these problems and let's do it. But it never ends up the way that this is why I think Professor Brian Cox said it. I heard it in a podcast recently. He was saying that the thing about democracy is, yes, it's an experiment, and democracy is there because we know one person can't do it right. It doesn't work. It always goes wrong. You have a totalitarian kind of, dictator sort of running things. So the thing with, and I've seen this in Australia my whole life, and I've seen the same thing in the US as well. It seems to be this swapping between, liberal, conservative. So there'll be a certain amount of time, and then everyone will just get jack of whoever's in and go, no, forget this, and throw them out. Yeah. And then the other ones come in and Brian Cox's perspective on that is that, that's a way of kind of having a middle ground, because we know we just can't get it right. And one group will go too far that way, one group will go too far. So it's kind of like this. But you're right, we kind of need that diversity of thought, to use a catchphrase that's been around for a while. Because and as much as I hate it, I don't want to agree with someone else. I don't want to change my mind on stuff. I'm getting old, dude. I don't want to do that. So I get the impulse that I lean more towards the left, definitely. Not so far that I would crucify someone on social media, but I definitely lean towards the left. And I look at, people that are more on the right, and I just think, oh man, I disagree on so many levels. But if I start wiping out their thought or trying to make them the same as me and everything, then yeah, you're right. There's only one way that ends, and it's not good. And we're seeing it in other parts of the world as well. So it's not, and always have. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, so have we fixed world politics and money and stuff?
I think so. I think we have. I think we solved all the problems. Not to linger on it, just because of over the pandemic, there was a lot of weird stuff happening in Australia, and I'm hearing different things from Australians, like when they had those camps and stuff. The way that I was looking at, and I'm not trying to talk about vaccines or anything like that. I'm just trying to help clarify what's going on over there. And there was a big argument here that's being used that you can't take away our guns because we're going to end up like Australia during the pandemic. And so
we were great during the pandemic. We were awesome.
Well, there was certain territories that were kind of more strict than others, and that kind of was like here in the United States. I live in Ohio in the U.S., so we were over it very early on. No one was wearing masks. Like, they were like, you have to be vaccinated. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. And everybody's like, all of a sudden, everyone's vaccinated. Everybody's vaccinated. No one was wearing masks. I was at the gym in February of 2021. No mask, just living my best life. I was in the steam room, in the sauna with other people with no mask on, living my best life. I made it, folks. I'm still here. I'm not dead yet. But there was parts of Australia, and again, I'm kind of going back to this argument that's being used here, especially with all this gun violence that's happening here in the United States, is that some people be like, well, you don't want to end up like Australia when they took away all their guns and then they end up putting you in camps. Now, and again, the way I understand it was that...
What camps?
Well, there was some.
Anyway, you keep going.
There was some COVID camps or something, and that's what made it here in the media, was that you guys had COVID camps, and that people were being taken away from their home, and it was.
Dude, okay.
FEMA.
So first of all,
FEMA.
First of all, no one getting taken out of their home. This again, I lean more towards the left. So taking the guns away was a great thing, and it's one. So the guy that was in charge when that happened was a conservative prime minister. I don't tend to lean that way, so he wasn't my representative, but I applaud the position that he took immediately of, all right, we have to do something. This is not on, or all the rest of it. We're also, though, we're a very different country. We weren't born out of revolution.
Right.
We don't have guns as a big part of our culture. You know, farmers use them, all that sort of stuff. So it's not. It's a lot easier for a country like Australia, I think, to say that's it, no more. We're out. And you'll see New Zealand did it recently as well with the issues they had over there. They did the same thing, and they just said, "Nah, we're done." There's still guns, but there's not. You know, it's not like. But again, we weren't born out of revolution. We don't have the same history you guys have had. We don't have a gun industry, if I can put it that way. So there's no financial interest really in it for us.
Right.
So it's a lot less blocking us from making that change. But yeah, the whole COVID thing, I'm in Queensland, so we were one of the tightest to lock down. And we basically just said, we don't want anyone from any of those other dirty states coming to us because you're going to. So what? But the reason why we did that was we effectively closed our borders for a while. And because of that, we were relatively free to do what we needed to do. It was only once the borders started opening up. But look, it was a confusing time. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. And the way that Australia did it was almost like we've watched how the rest of the world is doing it now. Our approach is to do this. So we had the benefit of being able to wait so we didn't get hit that hard initially, and we locked down tight and hard. Yeah, but once that was all done, though, it was basically, once you got the vaccines, then we're just opening everything up, and then everyone started getting COVID. But, you know, like... So
that's another...
But even so, the numbers that we had, so much smaller. I mean, I remember seeing pictures of the States, you know, of these, you know, massive body bags and these big, you know, impromptu hospitals that were set up and all that sort of stuff. And we were looking at that over here and thinking, my God, that is horrific. We didn't have anything like that. Our hospitals weren't overrun. Same in the UK. We were looking at them and thinking, wow, that's horrible. We're also, I mean, we're an island and we're miles away. But anyway, camps, the camps is a really bad word because of historical connotations for, you know, effectively we had what everyone else in the world had, which is you come in and you're 2 weeks, I think it was, for a long time. You have to be isolated for 2 weeks in a hotel, and then you know, whatever, and all that sort of stuff. It was the same as everyone else sort of had. So the argument that, you know, that if you get rid of guns, you're going to be the same as us. You're a different country, dude. Right. Like, it's so different over there to what it is here. But also, I don't think there's any connection between those two things. And like, definitely, it wasn't that bad over here.
Now I think that we've solved it. Now I think we got to the bottom of it. So I do want to talk about, are kangaroos real? Douchebag wants to know if kangaroos are real.
Dude, kangaroos are real, and they are not even the weirdest thing on this continent. They are absolutely real. There are kangaroos and there are wallabies, which are little kind of similar versions of them, marsupials. Are they marsupials?
I heard they're dicks. I heard that they're assholes over there. Those kangaroos are just assholes.
Look, anyone that's had a few drinks, particularly if it's rum, they can get a bit feisty. Kangaroos tend to be a bit like that. The males, anyway, they like to box. You've probably seen stuff on the internet.
Oh,
where
yeah.
they box, yeah. That's when they've had a few, man. You know, we all get a bit. Some people go to sleep. Some people get surly. They get surly.
Yeah.
But you know, they're definitely real. Koalas are real.
Birds, are they
possums.
real?
Birds are real.
Yeah.
I've seen them. Oh, look, there's one now. Take my word for it. They're real. We have birds.
There's a conspiracy theory that birds aren't real, that they're government drones to spy on us.
Oh, dude. Okay, first of all, I hear something like that, and I think that's a great idea for a book.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think the people just the amount of resources it would take to do that, and the fact that no one has found a dead bird lying there with its, you know, electronic insides fizzing or whatever, you know, just and also it's the why. The thing about conspiracy theories that I both love and hate is The conspiracy theories are designed to make you the center of the universe. They're designed to make you more important than what you are. The government is listening to me. They're tapping my phones. They're taking away my guns. They're doing this. They're doing that. All of that is me, 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 me. Why would the government want to listen to me? I'm not saying anything interesting. You've just been listening to me for an hour and whatever. This is just words coming out, and I'm one in millions and millions and millions of people. So I find it really interesting that the whole conspiracy theory side of things, that it has this way of making you more important than perhaps you are. We're not that important, really, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're over in China and you're a businessman and you're selling stuff, I don't know, stuff and things, you're selling your stuff and things over there or whatever, and you're very high profile, you've got tons of money and all that sort of stuff, I would be worried you're getting your phone tapped. If you're, coming in and out of Russia or whatever, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you're just your average Joe, the birds aren't. I mean, I've only ever had birds speak to me once. And yes, it was in a robotic voice. Yes, I did see a power cord coming out of its wazoo. But, aside from that, it's very rare.
Yeah.
I don't think it's tenable.
Yeah.
So I'm giving that one a thumbs down. The birds are just birds.
Birds are just birds.
Birds.
Yeah. Well,
Birds are just birds.
I would love to talk to you about your writing process, and I think this will be a good sort of
segue.
Thank you. A great segue. Your douchebag wants to know what your opinion is on L. Ron Hubbard as an author.
Look, I'll be honest. I haven't read. I haven't read any of his stuff. I've thought about reading some of his stuff, but then I've just not really gotten into it. So I don't really have a huge opinion. I saw the movie that Travolta did, Battlefield Earth, something. That was odd. Yeah, so I don't know. I think he's of the ilk that was writing at that time. So that, the whole idea was, I think he's the most prolific writer, sci-fi writer, probably still. It was that age when it's just like, get an idea, spit it out, get it in a short form book, and it's alien worlds and this sort of stuff. I think it's very interesting for what became Scientology, that you can kind of see the way his brain works and all of that sort of stuff. And but yeah, I don't really have an opinion, and I was never really interested. I don't think his books became big enough in my circles that I was like, oh, I've got to read some of his stuff to
Gotta at least try.
I've got to get through some of his books.
I've definitely tried reading Dianetics, and that was, I mean, it's interesting, but like it was bleh. But like I've never even tried reading one of his novels. I've heard that they're just sound like it was one draft, and it was just like out the door it went, and like you're saying, it was like, get it out, just get these ideas out, just fucking go, and yeah, I don't. So there you go. Yeah, it's bullshit. It's all bullshit. But Morgan, he.
All good.
Okay,
all good. Sorry.
Morgan the Q.
The Q.
So Moving Dutchman had a question for you a little while ago, and you kind of answered it, but I think it'll be another great segue to sort of get into your processes. How do you make sure your stories are original? So question of a more or less non-creator. So how do you make sure that your stuff stays original? And that's a great way to start.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Look, for me, it's I'm not interested in writing something that's been written or been done, or that I've already read or seen on TV or anything like that. The idea's fine. If there's an idea that I like, I'm happy to write something in a similar sort of vein, but I don't want to read. So basically I write what I would like to read, or what I would like to see on TV or film. So that I'm always at a point where something's going to happen to a main character, and Hollywood training has taught me it would be this way. He would shoot. So for example, classic example, he would shoot the guy in the head. He always shoots the guy in the head. shoot the guy, in the foot or the gut or the shoulder or something, or wing him, or something a bit different. So there's little things like that where at every opportunity, not every time, but you'll look for things to do something a bit different and that hasn't been done before. The other thing I like is twisting things on their head. So the Enmity comic and novel, that's essentially the devil or Lucifer quits his job, gets jack of it, just sick and tired of doing what he's doing. So he says, that's it, I'm done, I'm out, I quit. He quits, he goes on a bender, he drinks, he carouses, he does all that sort of stuff, sleeps with a bunch of women, all that sort of stuff. And then the story starts off 16 years later when this 16-year-old girl is walking around not knowing that she's the daughter of the devil in this sort of apocalyptic wasteland. Now, Lucifer's a well-known character, and with the, TV series and a few other things around, people are used to sort of seeing that. It's a religious icon or idea that's very well sort of founded. So I love the idea of grabbing something like that and just twisting it a little bit, because you've still got this whole world to work within that's already established, but you just change things slightly, which is another way, because honestly, it's very, very hard to come up with a truly original idea that people are still going to be interested in. If things are too original, it's just going to go too far and no one will buy it and then just not interested. So it has to kind of be familiar but different enough that it's interesting, and the final thing in a very long answer to this very simple question. The final thing I like doing in all writing is I want to lead you down a path that you don't know what's going to happen, and that you think you know what's going to happen and it doesn't happen. I want to kill off a character at a point that you're thinking, but how could you do that? And what does that mean? I want a character to be permanently disfigured and not like the Superman thing, like, oh, he got shot and now he's fine. Oh, something fell on him and now he's fine. No, I don't want him to be fine. I want to do something to that character that changes them forever, and that they have to live with the consequences and all the rest of it. So things like that are really enjoyable, and a way to keep the writing fresh, because people are expecting things to go a certain way, and when they don't, and they sort of zig and zag, that's fun as a writer, but it's really fun as a reader as well to just not know. One of the worst things that I could ever hear from someone reading my books is, oh yeah, that's pretty much what I thought would happen. That would be horrible. What? You knew all the way along? Yeah, called it. Yeah. I mean, page 1, you pretty much said what was going to happen. I knew what was going to happen. I love when readers tell me I had no idea, and I was just, I had to keep reading to find out, because it was just, that's that journey. I want the characters to go on that journey, but I want the reader to go on that journey with the character as well. Yeah.
No, do you like M. Night Shyamalan? I'm not trying to compare that, but he's known for his twist.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of M. Night Shyamalan?
I am. I don't love all his movies. The Happening was one for me that it just didn't grab me, but I love The Village, Signs. The Village is actually probably my favorite. Just because it had that, at the start anyway, had that sort of fantasy element. And there are, cinematically, I think he does some really, really cool things as well. Like the bit in The Village where the guy gets stabbed and there's, brooding music and all this music going on, and then the music just stops, and then you just hear the sickening sound of the thing happening. That's a very Hitchcock thing, I think, to do, but that was really cool. But I love that whole idea. Yeah, and I love the twist. And that everyone that comes to his stuff knows there's going to be something here that I'm not expecting, and that's going to change. And I like that moment at the end where you change something and you then go back over everything you've just seen and think, well, that casts everything in a completely different light.
Right.
But yeah, I also don't have the patience for his style. I couldn't write a book like his movies, because again, they're still too slow for me. They're still, I would need to hint at something early to really draw people in, and get myself interested. But yeah, I do love his stuff. Yeah.
So with your writing, I mean, how much of now, like, sort of going down with like how you schedule your time and stuff, because you do so many different things. I mean, you're making books, you're making music. I mean, you make soundtracks to your books, which could you kind of go into why that you started doing that? What was the purpose of sort of making soundtracks to your books?
Well, the first reason was a practical one. It's something I can do fairly quickly and easily. I've always been fairly quick at being able to compose music and put stuff together. So I can do it quickly and easily and at no cost, which means if I'm running a Kickstarter campaign for a project, it's something additional that I can give backers that it gives a bit more value to the whole thing.
Oh, that's cool.
That doesn't cost me anything. So it's a value thing for them. It's fun as well, and it's kind of unique to someone that can do what we do. So, for example, the last Kickstarter that I ran for Shadow's daughter, I gave away theme songs. So I basically said to the backers, all right, I'm going to do a raffle, and 2 of you will get your own unique theme song that I will build for you. It's only for you. No one else will ever hear it. I won't be selling it or anything. You can use it for whatever you want. And it was great. I ended up doing 4 of them in the end because it was quite popular. But one of them was a creator, and he had another project, so I did a thing for him.
Oh, cool.
Another one does like motivational speaking, and she said, "This is amazing. I'm going to play this as my intro music when I come on the stage and all that." So I thought, well, that's great. So it's things like that you can offer. It's about value and giving people something that other people wouldn't be able to give you. I did try. I wrote a book called Rust Chronicles, which is about this whole universe that Whiplash and the Script Rebellion are kind of part of. So one's a graphic novel, one's a novel, and there are a bunch of other comics and novels and everything associated with that world. I wrote a book of short stories called Rust Chronicles, which has like 17 short stories. Some of them are from our world, or what we call the waking world, so the normal world, and some of them are from this dream world where this fictional city called Rust exists. So the whole idea is basically that there's this world of Rust, or the dream world, and everything is in flux. There are representations of New York and Seattle and all these cities within that world, but they kind of ebb and flow. They're like shadowy representations of the real thing. And dreamers sometimes dream themselves into this world. But there's one city at the center of this whole place called Rust, mainly because of the size of the color of the walls that are around the city, the rusted kind of metal and all that sort of stuff. So that's the kind of setting. And so some of the stories take place in that dream city. Some of the stories take place in the real world. And I wrote an individual song for each short story. And the idea was you read the short story, you listen to the music, and it gets you in the mood for the story and all that sort of stuff. I did this like 7 years ago or something like that. I just didn't know how to promote it or how to do anything. So it didn't really go anywhere, but I thought the idea was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It just kind of, no one knew about it. It is out. You can actually get the book, and the album is on my other site. But yeah, I like the idea of blending those two. There's comic artists or comic creators on Indiegogo that I've seen that are they do things like release an LP or an album, as well as like you were saying before, those other guys, as well as the comic, they'll have an album, and then they'll have t-shirt art, and they'll do a whole thing because they're kind of a band and they do the whole lot.
Yeah.
I like that idea as well. But that's essentially why.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, man. And good morning. Good morning, Zoggy. Zoggy. Ziggy says morning from Korea. Ziggy had a question popping in here. Is there something you add to your writing that can be seen throughout all your works that say, hey, this is a Morgan story?
Yeah, there definitely is. So the one is that I tend to write first person present, even for fantasy. So it's very quick, sharp, kind of narrating from the perspective of the person that's in the action. So it tends to be very action oriented and focused on the person. I do like a turn of phrase as well. So I do like a bit of a flourish to the end of a sentence, or a little bit more elaborate language here and there. So I do tend to use that throughout everything I do. I can't help it. And then there are several ideas that always work their way into my work. One is anything to do with the moon, anything to do with an alternate world, shadows having a life of their own or something to do with the shadow. And I love steampunk kind of stuff. So some of that machinery stuff, you know, so the Rust universe, or that the Script Rebellion, has a kind of horror element to it, but it's horror / steampunk, you know, people being dissected and put back together as part machine, part human, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But with a steampunk bent. So they tend to be the elements that just pop up no matter what I do, whether I mean it or not. It ends up going that way. Yeah.
So like, do you are your novels, can they be sort of in the same world, or do they tend to be very different? Or are there like through lines that can be sort of seen throughout the whole your different series? You know, I don't know, like I'm you know, like the Marvel universe such, but like, you know, not as hokey. I don't know. Do you tend to do that, or do you like to just start brand new from a whole new idea and expand from there each time?
Yeah, so they tend to be standalone ideas, but I have a terrible habit of using the same name in different projects. So readers immediately jump to that and think, what's the connection? When is that going to cross over with this and that and this and that? And most of the time there's no crossover, but because I'm so unoriginal with names, or I fixate on a name and just stick with it for too long, there's all these connections and stuff. Some of them, so anything to do with the Rust universe is all connected, but that's a whole series of stuff that's connected. Shadow's Daughter is separate to that, but you can kind of see there's links and similarities. The Seven Hungers, which is my latest horror book, is completely different to any of that stuff. But it's one of those things that, you know, in the future, could I mishmash them together? Absolutely. It would be easy enough to do alternate world style. But it's not intentional. It's more, you know, the way my brain works, and the kind of ideas that I gravitate towards tend to be fairly similar. And that's just the way it is. Yeah.
Do you now, sorry, going back to that idea that you do so much, you know, you're composing music to accompany your books, and first of all, is this all you do? You just do art, or do you have a day job? Like what, or do you just do music? Do you in art, and what's the, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I have a day job, which pays the bills, and then the money that I make from music funds the writing and graphic novels and all of that sort of stuff.
Wow.
So, which means that I can afford to work with artists and get projects going without having to fundraise for them first, which means that they're going to exist whether someone backs them or not.
Right.
Which is a good spot to be in. But yeah, that's where the music goes. But the day job keeps me in a house, and you know, everything else the way it is. So yeah, a day job that I'm going to start in an hour or so.
Oh, okay. So we should probably get wrapping up here shortly, but I am interested. So like, what form of music, or what medium of music do you mostly pursue? Do you make the most money off of? Is it like live gigging, or is selling your music? Like where do you get your income off your music?
Most of the income is actually loop labels. So I run 3 or 4 loop labels, and have done that for a long time.
Oh, wow.
I've always found, I did hip hop stuff for a while, you know, beats and all that sort of stuff. And I've always found you make a lot more from producers than you do from artists. Producers are the ones that want to invest money and stuff. And it's always been the same for me. So it's probably a combination of the loops and, you know, session musician stuff and film and TV. When it does eventually come in, that kind of tops up. But they tend to be the areas that consistently make the most money. And again, we're not talking I can retire early sort of money, but within a very difficult industry where I honestly don't do any live gigs, I don't have a band, I don't do any of that stuff anymore. You're able to derive a constant income that you can use to promote the comic graphic novel empire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's rad. I love that. I've kind of taken a backseat live gigging as well, and just sort of do writing and producing and stuff myself. Eh, I love the gigging thing, but it's just, man, the older I get, the more I just want to sit up at my house and just like
Yeah.
chill and not like be around drunkards and and fucking
Yeah.
these wild kids that are out here now. Uh, um, so what would you say your instrument is then? Like, what's your strongest instrument?
Guitar.
Guitar.
Definitely guitar.
Were
Yeah,
you,
that's where it all started. That's what I go to most often. So yeah,
what is
guitar and originally classical Spanish sort of guitar was where I started, and then
oh.
moved to electric and all that sort of stuff from
So
there.
are you
Yeah.
are you trained? Did you go to school for this? Or like what? How deep are you into to all this?
I trained when I was younger, didn't really learn anything, and then dropped it, and then picked it up when I was a teenager, and that's when I really figured out what I was doing. So most of it is self-taught. After an initial foundation where I didn't really do much.
Mm.
And I would describe myself, I'm not an amazing musician. I'm a very, very good compiler, composer, editor,
Mm.
producer, that sort of stuff. I'm very
Yeah.
good at that, but it's not like my guitar skills are astounding. I've just
Yeah.
got good feel. I can do a fair range of what I need to do, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I feel that. That seems to be the case for a lot of multi instrumentalists. Is like they're not really like the greatest virtuoso at any one instrument, but can sort of have a better ear for production and composing more than sitting there and like ripping solos and balls deep in theory and such. Um, Ziggy wanted to know, what do you do to get past writer's block?
Good question. Two things. One, I write. I write garbage. I don't even think. I just write and write and write any old garbage. I skip sections of a book and just move on to other bits and just put come back later there and whatever in the document. Because the easiest way to get around writer's block is usually not I don't know what words to write. It's usually I've spent the first half of a book creating problems for my protagonist, and now I can't figure out what comes next. I don't know how to undo those problems, or I don't know so it's usually an idea block rather than a not being able to write. So I just keep writing. The other thing I do is I watch film, TV, classic sci-fi, anything in the same genre as what I'm working through, just to get in the right vibe and try and get some ideas. There might be some little thing that's referenced in a film that I look at and go, oh, that gets me out of this problem, or I could write something in that from that perspective, or whatever. So those two things, I just flood myself with stuff and just push through and write any old trash, because you come back and edit it later anyway. As long as you're writing, it tends to get the works loosened in there.
That makes a lot of sense. The idea of like you just sort of write, and there's this dude named Stephen Pressfield. He has a book, that's what is it, the art of war of art, the war of art, where he talks about where like the idea of writer's block isn't really, it's not real. It's not real. It is real for some people, but it's not real if you're doing your job. If you're treating this like a job, if you're doing it every day, if you're, if this is a part of your life and you want to take it seriously, you're doing it all the time. It's like you just, there's all kinds of things you can do. And I've heard from different writers too. It's like there's always prompts. I've heard a lot of
Yeah.
writers be like, "Fuck writer's block, that shit ain't real." It's like if you want to get past writers, or it's really just the idea of like you were saying, is like, how do I get my protagonist through these issues, and how do I solve this puzzle? There's always something to do. I'm the same way in editing as well. Like if I'm drying up in a certain section of a song or something, if I'm mixing or not mixing or producing something, I'll just go to the bridge or something. I'll be like, okay, I know what I want to do for the bridge. I'll go to wherever the energy is, and I'll just go there, because like like writing, you're on a DAW, you can just sort of go move stuff around and do different things, and you can just control, what is it? Control Z, whatever, go back, delete,
Yeah, I
whatever.
do.
You can just
Yeah.
delete shit. It's fine. You know, you just sort of go to wherever the energy flows. And so I always appreciate people who are not just sitting there, just, well, I just don't know, man. And it's like, well, you need to do something else then. It's like, step
get
away,
out of it.
go for a fucking walk. It's like, because you just got to keep it moving. Do you tend to write every day? Are you one of those folks, or do you just sort of you do write every day?
Every day. And if I don't, so I haven't written yet today, and I'm already feeling antsy because I haven't written. So I'll find some time later on today or tonight.
Is this your writing
even if
time?
it's a small bit. Oh no, my writing time was 2 hours ago.
Yeah. Okay. So when you wake up at
I
4,
do have.
Go ahead.
I do have one so I don't have writer's block. I do have one problem, which is actually come out right now. I desperately need a pee. If you can give me 20 seconds, I'll be back in a tick.
I'm counting. We're gonna set a timer. We're set a timer. Okay, go. Set a timer, or no. Start the stopwatch. Hold on, we're starting it. Here we go. Stopwatch is going. We're gonna see. I don't have to go to the bathroom. I got my bladder like a man, like a cisgendered man who gets back first. Now I take long pees. I do owe Pizza Man a thing, but I don't think we'll have time to get through it. So if Pizza Man's still here at the end of this conversation, which we will be letting him go here soon because he has to get ready and go to work. So it's what time is it for him over there? I think it's like almost 8 o'clock or something over there for him. So listen, he said 20 seconds. He's on 45 seconds right now. He's fucking lying to us, guys. He's fucking lying to us. How dare he? There he is. Pizza Man's here. Yeah, Pizza Man, if you could stick around for a little bit longer, I'll deliver that. And I told you I'm good on my word, sir. And I still have to send you a woo sticker, and I still owe Morgana a woo sticker. That there he is. Liar. You've lied to us.
I know. I enjoyed it too much. Sorry.
It's 1:08. Do you have an apology for my chat and my listeners for your lies?
I am terribly sorry. It was I regret what I said. I don't regret what I did because it was necessary.
Time works different in the upside down. Yeah, it does.
It does. My bladder fills upwards, not downwards. I could feel it in the back of my throat. It was horrible. I had to go.
You could taste it, folks. You could taste it. So with your writing, you tend to write every day, and you're.
Yeah.
Is it mostly on stuff you're working on, or is it just whatever it is? Is it like, and do you said you do write like scripts and stuff too, right? You do write movie scripts or TV scripts, like. So
yeah.
Do you tend to work on one project at a time, or do you work in different projects? However the spirit moves you, if you will.
Yeah, I tend to go with three writing projects at the one time. One is a main, like a novel that I'm writing at the moment, but then I'm editing the previous version of that novel and writing a script for a film, upcoming horror sort of film. So they're the three kind of writing projects. Then I'll have 2 or 3 editing projects, like a comic series that I'm just editing at the moment, and another book that I need to edit. So I'll have 4 or 5 sitting there, and I'll have one primary that I'm pushing to, and I might swap from one to the other depending on deadlines and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, every day, even if it's just if I can write for 2 hours, that's amazing. But usually it turns out to be about 45 minutes to an hour, which all adds up, you know.
Mighty, thank you so much for gift subbing, Larry52. That gift sub, thank you so much. So you do editing for other writers as well? Like that's part of your hustle there, or you just you're just only working on your stuff?
No, I do. I write for others, but I'm pretty selective because writing is one of those things that I love, and I love doing it, but I couldn't do it for a living if that meant I was just writing other people's stuff. Because it would be like taking the thing I love most and just, sullying it, for want of a better term, because then it just is a job, and it's just a day job. And whereas everything I do now, it can be hard work, it can be a real push to get things done, but I enjoy all of it because it's ultimately building this thing that I've created, so I can invest in it. Whereas doing stuff for other people, I write, comic scripts. I mean, the film script that I'm doing at the moment is for a friend who's a director. But it's just also, if the experience is good and it's going to be fun and I'm going to enjoy it, that's when I'm more likely to pick it up and run with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, man, during the pandemic, I had so many offers to do like just studio work, remote studio work, and all I could concentrate on was the fucking podcast, man. Like, I only cared about the podcast, like, and for whatever the reason was, all my energy, and which really paid off because the podcast like tripled in numbers during that time. So, and still growing and stuff. And I'm not gonna toot my own horn or anything, but to see that real world action of like me putting all my energy and effort into one thing and seeing the results of it it was amazing to me. So like everything else became like a hassle. Like I took on one project and I was just like, oh God, I gotta do that. And it just was, it was horrifying. Like, and I love music. You know what I mean? Like it's a part of me. It's part of my identity. But at that moment, I was just like, I just dropped all my musical projects, didn't give a shit. Like, I'm over that. I'm not doing that anymore. Just dropped out of all of it, and then just completely focused on the podcast, and then into the Twitch stream. And like, I love that. I love that it worked out. And it did feel like a job when I was taking on these other projects that weren't necessarily my own, because I love making music for the stream, right? Like because like I'll make stupid, silly songs for the stream, or real songs or serious songs and stuff. But it all goes towards something. It's going towards the bigger vision of what I'm building. Right. And that's what's cool about sort of the Twitch world, is that you can sort of world build here. You know what I mean? You can have silly things pop up, and like this is like, oh Jesus, I didn't do it right. Never mind.
It was great, man. I loved it. It was awesome.
There you go. The nature boy. There you go. That's it. But stupid stuff like that. But yeah, I really enjoy doing stuff like that for the stream and stuff. But yeah, man. I'm gonna let you go because I know you have to get ready and go to work, and you probably have a drive. Do you work somewhere, or do you work from home?
I'll work from home today, but yeah, occasionally I'll go into the office as well. But yeah, it'll be right here. I'll be working today.
Oh, okay, cool. And do you mind saying what you do?
It's very different to what I do creatively. I work in a bank.
Oh, sweet.
But I work. It's sort of a training. I run a training team within a bank. So yeah,
so
it's great. It's good. It's good as well because it doesn't suck any creative energy out of me, which means I've got all that energy to throw into the books and the writing and music and all that stuff as well.
Yeah, I love it.
And it pays the bills.
And it pays the bills.
I really like it paying the bills. Yeah.
No, I feel the same way. I have a day job too. After like 6 years, I had to get a day job, and just because I was doing music and working for me and my wife worked for ourselves. And, I got this job, which is right across the street from my apartment complex, which is really awesome.
Sweet.
But it's like one of those jobs that like, I don't mind going to. Like, it's cool. I cook for old people. I like to cook. And like, and the best part about it is that it works as fodder also for the show too, because I can come home and be like, oh man, the 24-year-old with no teeth was doing this today, and it turns into like a 20-minute story where we get to like chat and have a good time and laugh and stuff. So it's like a very if I had to have a day job, this would be the day job. You know what I mean? Like I like this.
Yeah, same.
And so it's like it's fine, and it adds to everything. I do want to go over to your website for a little bit and just show people what's going on. Make sure you guys are going and following Morgan, he's doing big things, y'all. He's doing. I mean, look at this, man. You work, man. You are a grinder. Like it's
dude.
crazy. It's crazy how much you got going on here. It's yeah, I mean, look at this. You can go to his website. You can go check out his books. Now, does your books usually come out in just one big book, or do you have them go in like several little books? I imagine the several little books are very expensive, but I don't know. How do you usually release them?
Yeah, usually digital first, then individual issues or little books, and then a omnibus kind of combined version later on. And the novels are just novels, and then you can get groups of novels down the track. But I've written a lot, but there's still a lot of novels that are getting edited and coming through the pipeline. So this year there'll be another 2 or 3 novels, and then next year there'll be, I think, 3 or 4 coming out. So
God damn.
And comics, man, there's going to be another 7 comics this year, and there's a lot. There's a lot coming. So it's a lot of work behind the scenes, and now they're starting to come out and get released.
And do you find yourself do you mark out, I mean, you said you mark out time for writing every day, but like do you have a do you have like a set amount of time every day where you're like working on admin too, or do you work on like, do you have different days where you work on a certain thing and then and then like Mondays I do the phone calls or the emailing, and then Tuesdays I do, I look for artists. Like, is there like a certain set schedule that you have for what you have to accomplish, or is it just like a free for all?
It's usually every day I'll do a bit of everything depending on what comes through the inbox. And then there'll be certain projects coming in, and then there's promo offers and all sorts of stuff. So I just schedule those out on different days. But yeah, usually every day has a little bit of everything. And then when the music, when I have to put together loop packs and things like that, that's a bit of work. So usually on the weekends, I'll devote a chunk of time to doing that sort of stuff.
Man, you just, and so when do you talk to your family? When does your family see you?
In between doing all that stuff. It's amazing how much an hour or 2 a day can build up to if you do it right. You know what I mean? Absolutely. It all adds up. And I've been doing it for a while now, so it's I've been able to put together a fair bit of stuff.
Right. Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Like it's very inspiring, honestly. It's very inspiring to see somebody who takes on so much and is able to do it without like your wife being like, no, you know what, I'm done with this. Like, you need to pick this or that, which I don't know. Are you married? I'm sorry, I just assumed.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah,
you have a kid?
married one wonderful boy as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a kind of equilibrium thing. So the deal is I have to pull my weight around the house. I have to be engaged with that sort of stuff. And all of the money towards this comes from my own creative stuff rather than sort of plundering our own money. And then that kind of works out well.
Yeah, man.
Until Netflix gives me that call, and then it'll be, all right, let's ride the gravy train all the way to Hollywood.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a different situation then, right? It's like, listen, baby, do you want me fucking just over here doing this for the rest of our life, or do you want the big bucks, baby? Let's go to LA.
Yeah.
Morgan Quaid, I appreciate you coming on the show again, everybody. I dropped his links in the chat, and if you're listening on the audio side, make sure you go into the show notes and click on all those links and follow your boy Morgan, because he's out there hustling for you. And if you're a graphic novel fan, I don't know if that's how you say that. I'm such a
whatever, man. Make it up. Go for it. Yeah.
It all works, baby. If you're a fan of that, if you're a fan of music, if you're looking for beats, if you're looking for music for your next commercial, he's got it, baby. Go get it. Go get that shit. Yeah. All right, guys. Morgan, thanks again, my friend. I really appreciate it. Man. Everybody, put your hands together for Morgan Quaid. I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Cheers, dude. See ya.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's Morgan Quaid, everybody. Morgan Quaid in the hizzy for shizzy. Oh, Morgana, how you doing? All right. So I owe Pizza Man a melodica solo. So Pizza Man, if you're in here, or if you're lurking, that's fine. Don't worry about it. But if you have a preference, we can let me know if you want hype, if you want chill, whatever you want. Or it can just be a streamer's choice, either one. And I'm not going to give you a whole lot of time, so there you go. I appreciate Poke.